Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Luke here from Astro Awakening. A big thank you to my subscribers for your continued support, and welcome aboard to all my new subscribers from all over the world. This is a video on the astrology of the month of February. I'm going to take a look at the big picture, and then we're going to focus in on a few key dates, look at the full and new moons that are happening, and some other planetary energies. But just to sort of start off, a little bit of also, I've got an oracle card that I've pulled for the collective, which I'll reveal at the end. But just to start off, there tends to be, with the astrology at the moment, we've had Saturn moving through Aquarius for almost like 2.5 odd years. And he's coming to the end of his transition through Aquarius. And in fact, in February, he moves into new ground, outside of his shadow period, which I'll explain shortly. And by the time we get into early March, he moves into the sign of Pisces. But we have had this sense of like seriousness. And when Saturn's in Aquarius, it really tends to put a lot of pressure on the sign archetype that's opposite, which is Leo. And we are moving towards a Leo full moon shortly. I'll break that down. But what can happen is we can lose our sense of connection to our heart. We can come up into our head too much. We can get a bit too serious. We can be a little bit detached, disconnected, perhaps. So just a reminder at the beginning of this video to reconnect back to the self, back to the simple things, and to try as best as you can to find some joy in your life so that it sort of tempers the seriousness that's going on. We want to be able to balance those energies. Yes, we have obligations. Yes, we have sort of responsibilities, and our responsibility to each other and humanity and the community at large. Absolutely. There's a lot of heavy energy at the moment. There's a lot of what I feel is a reluctance for people to want to offend, so they're not actually expressing themselves at all. And that Leo is that sign of expression. It's the creative self, letting your lion roar and just like, this is me. With the sun in Aquarius, with Saturn in Aquarius, with Aquarius, being sort of dominated that energy over the last month or so, but with Saturn's move through Aquarius since the end of 2020, we've lost our roar. And because possibly we didn't want to roar, and then maybe someone somewhere is going to be offended. And that's the sort of reality we find ourselves in now, is people are taking offense to literally everything. Well, as hard and tough as it may be, people have a right to be offended. But also, you have a right not to give a fuck. So it's whether you allow those that are taking offense to be the thing that deters you from expressing your full potential, your full self. So at the moment, we're coming into 2023 still. We're still not fully into it. And that's due to my belief is that there's only a couple of planets, Pluto just today, Saturn over the last 3 days, that have broken new ground, that have moved into new territory where they haven't been. Now, they haven't changed signs, so it's not been too significant. But all of the other planets by the sun and the moon are still in post shadow period. So I'll explain a little bit what that means. But when a planet goes retrograde, it goes back over a particular part of the sky or the zodiac, right? Well, once it turns direct again, it's regaining the ground that it lost. And when it's regaining the ground that it's lost, it's going over a particular part of the sky for its third and final pass. So all the planets are in their post retrograde shadow period, except for Saturn and Pluto. So even though we've started a new year, we've had the new moon, we're going into this Leo full moon energy, we've had the sun trine Mars that's gone direct. Mars has gone direct. We've also had the Mercury retrograde. It's had its trine to Uranus. So there's a bit of a like aha, maybe, and a bit of a breakthrough mentally, but we're still lagging, still a little lackluster, still stuck, still it's almost like there needs to be a release of the heaviness so that we can then come back to the self, come back to the heart, come back to what matters, come back to the simple things, reconnecting to our community, And it doesn't have to be global, it can be local. But finding community and like-minded people. So there's a nice Leo full moon coming up to do just that, to reconnect, to find your community and maybe connect in some way, hopefully in person. You can get together and you can maybe sit around a campfire and tell stories or play some music or have a dance or go to the beach or on a nice nature walk or something that is grounding and wholesome, but allows that just it's almost like the collective we can breathe out, we can relax, and we can just get ready for the transitions that are coming in March. So February, things will really start to sort of shift, but not till probably about mid-month, post the Leo full moon, which is on the 6th of February. So a couple of things happening, classes on Luke, is let's pull up the chart. And let's start with Pluto because Pluto is currently now outside of its shadow period. So it's moved into the final 2 degrees of Capricorn. And if you were born on the 18th, 19th, 20th, even 21st of January, you are welcoming in Pluto now, Pluto energy. Some of you early that 18th may have already experienced Pluto's force, these powerful, unconscious desires that can rise to the surface. A lot of repressed energy can look for a pathway into the consciousness. Pluto being the unconscious, the reservoir of all the unconscious, where all we store the unconscious energy. It's the unconscious soul. And the soul is entombed in the body. So this can sometimes put pressure on the physical body. When Pluto and your sun, if you are at the 19th, 20th degree of 19th, 20th of January. So you're at late degrees of Aquarius, of Capricorn. It's Pluto is now interacting with your solar energy, your sun, which is your consciousness. And it's the identity, it's the selfhood, it's the image of the self, it's the I am aspect, which is the sun. So Pluto is starting to hopefully transform that and bring you more in alignment with your most authentic truth. If you're having some stuff come up that's difficult to, connect with or to accept, to just process, then it's a good time to engage in counsel, whether that be, professional like myself or a psychologist or just a counselor, someone that you can talk to honestly, that's not going to place any judgment, that's going to give you a space and help you sort of understand at a deeper level how to align to what's really going on. The worst thing you could do is through this transit of Pluto in the final degrees of Capricorn, early Aquarius. So is deny or repress that. Try to put a lid on it, distract yourself or avoid it. Especially if you're in those 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st of January birthdays, because the solar sun energy represents vitality. And sometimes the connection of Pluto, which is a transformative energy, transformation, often through some type of powerful change. Sometimes that change can be a crisis. And with the sun, it can be a health crisis. The effect of this over a 2-year period is a transformation of the self-image, how you see yourself, your identity, and even the roles that you play in your life. So it's a powerful moment. Pluto in the whole month of February will go from the 28th degree to the 29th degree of Capricorn. So it'll really impact those born the 19th and 20th of January. But likewise, those born in the late degrees of Cancer, very, very late degrees of Cancer. So if you're a Cancer cusp baby born on the very end of Cancer, then you're having Pluto in opposition to the sun. So where you're integrating this unconsciousness is through others, right? Especially in direct relationship or opposition to you. It's your stuff that's probably part of your unconscious presenting itself in others. So it's can be quite confrontational and really challenging for Cancerians, their level of self-security. how they feel about themselves. So adjustment is needed, obviously, and adjustment is, the process of deep honesty, reflection, truthfulness, surrendering to it, just allowing it, finding a place to let it out. That's why I say it's always good to seek counsel if that's going on. Now, also, for those at the very end of Aries, for those at the very end of Libra, if you're born on the very last 2 days of Aries or Libra, you're also having a Pluto square. So that could be that someone around you in your environment is going through some Pluto like crisis, which is impacting you. Now, not directly, it's not your fault, it's nothing you're doing. It's just they're going through something, but it directly affects you. And through that, you're having to make some pretty deep changes and serious changes in your life. So Pluto is moving towards the end of Capricorn. As we know, it's going to move into Aquarius 24th of March here in Australia. So February really setting us up for this transit of Pluto into Aquarius. Pluto will be sitting in that 29th degree for almost a month. It's a very significant aspect of the sign. It's almost like the last part of that sign's energy is it's almost like has to be sort of released, if you like. Now, I bring people's attention back to when Pluto moved into Capricorn, which was over the 2008, beginning of 2008. And it was around that time that we were having a subprime mortgage crisis in the US, which triggered the global financial crisis and the banking collapse. And so, there could be some remnants of that energy that has to be resolved, especially over the next 18 months as Pluto is going to go into Aquarius and then unfinished business back into Capricorn. So on a big worldwide scale, we might see some things coming to light that are quite shocking and revealing, some unknown truths that find their way into the collective consciousness. So be mindful of that. Now, Saturn's the other planet in February that is moving out of its shadow. In fact, in 27th of January, it moved out of its shadow and now it's breaking new ground. I've mentioned this before, but I'll repeat it now. If you are born between the 14th and 18th of February, even the 19th of February, you are going to have Saturn pass over your sun once, which normally a Saturn transit will hit at least 3 times. And it can span over a period of really 8 or 9 months or so. So you go through this process of integrating your lessons, overcoming your challenges, getting down to the nitty-gritty and doing the work, being practical, being confronted with perhaps some aspects of life that you've not been tending to. It's like the reality manifests of like the lack of responsibility in a certain area. And now it's like the awareness around, oh shit, I got this to deal with. So normally with Saturn, because of its transit, it's covering, with its retrograde period, 80% of a particular area. And there's these 20%ers, which is basically everyone now born between the 14th and 18th Feb, is where Saturn's just going to make its one pass. And it's going to do that, which means you're going to have, if you're born within those days, and also we'll cover some other, like it's also those born in other fixed signs, the end of Taurus, the end of Leo, and the end of Scorpio are going to have to deal with the integration of Saturn energy. And you're going to get it for a pretty intense 2-week period, sometime between now and early March. So how well do you take responsibility? Are you in control of all aspects of your life and yourself? What roles are you playing? Are you in a position where you're going to need to take on more responsibility? That can come through perhaps, becoming a new father or mother for the first time. And it's amazing. It's not a difficult process, but it also comes with this new level of responsibility. Maybe you've been going for a promotion at work and you've been really working hard, and that comes to fruition. And all of a sudden, with the extra success comes extra responsibility. And Saturn just wants you to roll up your sleeves, get down to it, and do the work. Self-discipline. It's with Saturn, it's like, okay, I get it. But Saturn was like, well, are you applying the knowledge? Are you doing it? Because otherwise, if you know but don't do, you're not really wise. And wisdom comes through the application of knowledge, through experience. So Saturn is a testing planet. So in February, it is in new ground and new territory, but it's still in the same sign of Aquarius. So it's going to be more of the same, but it's probably a different sort of energy. As we go out from these guys and look at Neptune and Uranus, Uranus is pretty active this month. It is the co-ruler of Aquarius, and it's involved in the full moon, which we'll talk about shortly. But Uranus is in its shadow. It won't clear its shadow until it reaches the 18th degree of Taurus, which is where it's stationed retrograde. And Neptune was at 24 degrees of Pisces before retrograde. So it's got a little bit of shadow work to do still. So no new territory for that. Jupiter is also in its shadow. However, when we get to about, I think it's the 14th, 15th of February, which middle of the month, Jupiter breaks its shadow, post retrograde shadow, and starts to clear into new energy, and it's new pioneering spirit coming through. And for those people born 27th of March to the 1st of April, April Fools, you're going to have Jupiter now coming across your sun energy. And Jupiter is a planet of expansion, ideals, growth. He's the guru, the guide, the teacher. It's about expansion of our ideals, of our goals, of our ambitions. So when Jupiter is in alignment with the solar or the sun energy, it can be a time of a lot of self-confidence. If you have to do any self-promotion, if there's any sort of, maybe you are going for a new job, or you're trying to go up for a promotion, or you're trying to get a business or a product launched, or you need to be in the spotlight for some reason, this would be a really good time. Or maybe it's just something simple, like you want to start a new exercise regime or a different lifestyle habit. Jupiter's influence brings belief, self-confidence, courage, optimism. If you are experiencing that Jupiter energy at the moment, then gratitude is the attitude of abundance, and Jupiter deals with graciousness and gratitude. So find a practice of giving grace and gratitude. When we get to the middle of the month, Jupiter is in new territory. So I think that's why by the time we get to about the middle of February, we'll be like really whistling along into March, where we do have some big planetary changes. So we just checking my notes. We have a full moon on the 6th of February. Let's go there now. There's let's go back. It is at 16 degrees of Leo. I will check the Sabian symbol for you as well. If you're new to my channel, we do look at Sabian symbols, especially for lunations or particular planetary alignments like conjunctions that are happening at significant points. Always like to check the Sabian symbols just to sort of see what more we can pull out from the archetype of that particular point on the sky. If you don't know what a Sabian symbol is, there are 360 degrees of the zodiac, and every degree has a archetypal symbol associated to it. These are really developed by the godfather of psychological astrology, Dane Rudhyar, and I use some of his fundamentals around the symbols, but also a guy online that's I feel was really brilliant at his breakdown of the Sabian symbols, which is James Burgess, and I'll check his site short. But we have the full moon in the full moon in Leo, which is the sun's home sign. So the sun is debilitated in Aquarius, because here it is. It's like what I started this video with today, which was, that seriousness where we've had a disconnect from our self-expression. We haven't wanted to offend other people, so perhaps we've dimmed our light, we've been in the shadows, or we've taken, a bit of a detached, detachment of self. So this sort of Leo full moon is like remembering to reconnect to the joy, to the heart, to the love, to the play, to have fun. So we don't have to take life too seriously. Yes, we have responsibilities, but also we should have a responsibility for joy. Right? We should make that. Like, why shouldn't we, when we connect into this reality and look at this world and the way we're living, why does it all have to be all hard work and no play? And I don't mean then just overindulge or self-indulge or, grandiose expressions of like ego. I mean like a balance of those two things. The interesting thing is that Leo archetype rules obviously over the heart, we're having a lot of, people succumbing to heart difficulties post inoculation. So this particular full moon, there may be for some people sudden, unexpected heart problems, heart issues, heart attacks, issues with the heart. Leo deals with will, right? When Saturn has been in Aquarius since the end of 2020, we've had the worldwide mandates on mass inoculation, the lockdowns, the coercions into, if you don't do this, you can't cross the border, you can't get on a plane, you can't go to work, you can't see your grandmother. Right? So there was a loss of will. And the heart is the center of our will. Right? Love under will, which is one of the Crowley philosophies. But if we're losing our willpower, we're losing our connection to heart, then we can have heart issues as a result. Uranus, the planet of liberation, freedom, sudden and unexpected change. It's the higher mind. It's in fixed Earth Taurus, so it's really sort of transforming and liberating the way we, deal with our things and possessions and material goods of value. Our values, what we value, is going through a radical transformation. The choices that a lot of people made over the last 2 years were based on a reckoning of what they valued. And for some people, they valued their lifestyle or their job above their well-being and their health. And yes, it's a difficult and challenging scenario to find yourself in, but choices were made. So especially with Saturn moving into Pisces in March, the consequences of some of these choices are going to have to be reckoned with, to be dealt with. The karmic consequences. It's reaping what you sow. And Saturn moving into Pisces is karmic endings and undoings. And I'll dive into that a little bit shortly. But this full moon is one of, a breakthrough, a point where we can cross over a threshold, where we can make the change, where we can go, the collective, and we can go, that's right, what the fuck are we doing here? Yes, the systems of authority that govern us, and not just government, but all systems of authority that govern us, are failing and falling and deconstructing themselves before our eyes. And the best advice I can give on that perspective would be to detach and disconnect from it as much as you can. But what is next? What's beyond that? For a lot of people, when they go through the awakening process and the deconditioning, it's easy to start to detach and disconnect, but it's like that you could stay left in the wilderness where it's like, well, albeit those systems were dysfunctional and we were conditioned into them, and they were quite, or they still are, they're quite controlling and limiting, very restrictive. But they provided some level of security and comfort. And sometimes you can find yourself out in that wilderness where you can lose that sense. So I think this full moon will be about a bit of an aha, a mental revelation, a breakthrough to realize, to go, yeah, like we can breathe now and we can come back to what's really important. When we connect in here, into the heart, into our love, right? Into, the care and the kindness to one another and to ourselves, we can then really look at our life and be like, well, hang on, what am I worrying about this for? Why am I putting my energy to that? Or why am I still doing that? And maybe it's time to make a change. Uranus, the planet of liberation, this is a T-square with this full moon. So, making a change is making a commitment to the self, to maybe bring back in the quality of Leo, which is play, joy, express, let your self roar, not in an egoic look at me sense where it's the dysfunctional, unbalanced, egoic lioness sort of pride, or the need to be the center or to seek the acclaim, should I say. No, it's just generous warmth and kindness, right? Generous warmth and kindness of heart to yourself. Find a way to connect to that. Find a way to connect to that through the act of play or joy. The inner child wants to feel secure enough for it to express itself. Children are a pathway to reconnect with that. So if you have kids, or you're an uncle or an aunt, you're a grandparent or someone like that, it's a good full moon to, spend some time with family and spend some time with others, and maybe hand over the control to the kids. Say, hey, what do you want to do? Let's play. Let's play. And surrender into that. Let go of the inhibition, let go of the judgment, let go of the, or the what if I'm going to offend someone, and just allow that full, free and creative expression to flow. So with the full moon, those born on the 6th of February, happy birthday. It's going to be a pretty powerful year ahead for you, having this full moon on your solar return. So happy birthday for the 6th of Feb. For the 8th of May, the 10th of August, and the 9th of November, if you're born on those days, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, this is a pretty powerful full moon for you too. So expect the unexpected. Allow the breakthroughs to take place. When we can let go of the need to control, or the tension, and we can just sort of relax, like I keep coming back to, is just the breath, right? Sometimes then there's a shift of energy, and things just, what was blocking us, what was preventing us from moving, can just shift. And all of a sudden we have that sort of freeing energy. So that could be some energy to watch out for if you have birthdays around those dates. And obviously, 5th, 6th, 7th of Feb, 7th, 8th, 9th of May, 9th, 10th, 11th of August, and 8th, 9th, 10th of November. This is going to be a pretty powerful transition for you guys, in particular, of the Aquarian, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. So on the 9th to the 11th of February, after the full moon, so we're in the waning cycle of the moon now. And when you get to the waning cycle, there is a lot of that energetic release that can happen. We have a new moon, it's like a seed that's being planted. With a full moon, it's like the fruition of that seed, or the releasing of the energy. And that energy can really come into physical manifestation. But then there's this ongoing sort of, what is the impact of the release of energy? What now is shifting and changing? What do you let go in? Where's the transition being made? Where's the reflection or the reorganization that needs to happen because of the change? And you tend to find that happens post full moon, in those 2 weeks of the waning moon. On the 9th, 10th, 11th of February, 9th, 10th, 11th, Thursday the 9th, 10th, 11th of February, Mercury is going to move. It'll have moved out of its shadow where it was retrograde period, and it will pass over Pluto. And Mercury and Pluto connections can really bring up stuff into the conscious mind. We can be having powerful thoughts, powerful words. We can be sort of confronted with where our deep animalistic repressed energy, whether it's sexual, whether it's anger, whether it's fight, whether it's flight, whether it's what it may be, can really impress upon the conscious mind and our thinking, our thought process, our ability to communicate. So it's going to be a powerful time to be very mindful of your words. It could be a time to do some deep journaling and to really, get those thoughts out as well. The interesting aspect, in particular, for the 10th, in particular, in the middle of that, is this sesqui square to Mars. Now, Mars is still in its post-retrograde shadow, so it hasn't broken new ground. So it's like, yeah, we've got direct Mars, but it's still going over the same area that's been going over now since August last year. So there's nothing really new going on there. But this sesqui square, it's a really key time to sort of perhaps, with the Mercury Pluto, it can be like the real intense mental clarity, or the really powerful mind. And then it can be like trying to kick the gears into action and let's go. The sesqui square is one of frustration and delays, because perhaps you need to integrate or consolidate or pause and reflect on this awareness before it's acted upon. If you're acting out of impulse, it'll be deep, repressed, or even unconscious impulse. You're going to face a little bit of perhaps frustration, or you might overdo it. You're going to have to be very mindful of engaging in heated discussion, debate, or anywhere where there's the potential for the ignition of the warring of words. With Mars in Gemini, the sign that's ruled by Mercury, it might be just, now it's the time I really have to get this off my chest. And in hindsight, you realize perhaps I wasn't so tactful with my words. Maybe I meant it differently, and the way it came out didn't come out the way I intended, and it could create an inflamed situation where there may be conflict. Patience, perseverance are required at this time, and perhaps channeling of that energy. So it's like, right, if it is new awareness, if it is aligned to some deep desire and you have this breakthrough, well, then integrate it, pause, reflect. If it's something that really is pressing, that's going to, perhaps change your direction or change a particular experience you're having, then ground it, get it grounded. Mercury after that will move into Aquarius, and we deal with this sort of lifting of mind out of the heaviness of Capricorn, when it can be serious, too serious, or it can be around fear-driven thoughts, insecurity, doubt, the limiting type thoughts, restrictive, it's too hard, the overburdening. And then we move into Mercury and Aquarius, and it's the shifting into a little bit of lighter mind stuff, higher mind, objectivity, idealism, being able to think bigger picture. So that's a nice sort of shift that happens around this. And it's around that time, shortly after, on the 14th of February, that Jupiter breaks new ground, moves out of its shadow. I think it's about the 14th there. So that'll be Jupiter then moving between the 8th and the, written down, 11th, sorry, yeah, the 8th and the 11th degree of Aries. So if you're born with the sun at between 8 and 11 degrees of Aries, or if you're born between the 27th and 27th of March, 1st of April, sorry, yep, that's correct, 27th of March, 1st of April, you're about to have, a feeling of confidence, self-belief, courage, a new pioneering spirit coming through, which is nice to sort of kick the year off well for you. 15th, 16th, 17th of February, we have the Sun conjunct Saturn and Venus conjunct Neptune over this period. So here we are here, 17th, 16th, 17th, there's the Sun-Saturn conjunction. And it may highlight these Aquarian themes, Saturn being the ruler of Aquarius, Saturn being spending the last 2.5 years in Aquarius, and it can really highlight that. Which, it is the group think, it's the idealistic, it's our social connections, our friendships. It is, detaching from the central self and sort of looking at how you fit in. Do you fit in? Where do you belong? How do you belong? So that is going to highlight that, with Venus at the same time making her conjunction to Neptune, and Venus dealing within Pisces. It's empathy, sensitivity, compassion. It's letting go. It's surrender. It's romanticism. We can be really romantic in this period. Post that full moon, there might have been some shifts that need to be integrated within your romantic partnerships. With the Sun and Saturn, there may be a particular commitment or recommitment or responsibility that you want to enforce or connect or start or begin, that can have really long-term sort of expression, if you like. I don't know if that's the right word, but we'll use that for now. So for those born on the 17th, 18th, 19th of February, you are having Saturn, obviously, you're one of those people that I spoke of earlier where Saturn's coming over your sun, and you're going to have your solar return with your Saturn conjunct the sun. So you could then look to the whole 12 months ahead as one of needing to sort of step up and take responsibility for yourself primarily, and to be more self-disciplined. Perhaps look at challenges in your life and that they probably are stemming from a deep need for a changing of the self-awareness or the personal behavioral patterns. Now, this is also going to be somewhat challenging for Leos born on the 8th, 9th, 10th of August, because this will be in direct opposition to your sun. So you might be confronted with some type of restriction or, heavy responsibility or some overburdening authority that's outside of you. And you're looking at how to navigate that. Usually it's going to mean that you're going to have to make a decision. Do I go this way or that way? And often it is about, making a change and saying, okay, well, that's that, then this is the way I'm going. Or no, okay, this is what I want, or this is the reality that I find myself in, and I just have to step up and maybe do the work. On the 19th of February, the sun will move into Pisces. So the sun moving into Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, Pisces sort of deals with the ending of matters through the completion of a cycle, but getting to the final sign of the zodiac. Pisces is that transcendence where we release, we let go, or we surrender. What are we letting go of? What are we releasing? Now, with Venus in Pisces, with Neptune in Pisces, with the sun moving into Pisces, with Saturn shortly to move into Pisces, we're certainly going to be ultra sensitive. We may be having to confront and deal with some of the negative aspects of Pisces, which is grief, because obviously with endings and undoings and releasings and letting go, there can be this sense of loss. It also can be heavy relationship emotions around victimization and blame. It wasn't my fault, or they did it, or I had no choice type energy. It is a sign of spirituality, and it is a time perhaps to focus more on our spiritual connection and to solidify our spiritual connection or our own personal relationship with source energy. Do we have some type of practice? With Saturn moving next month after February into Pisces, getting serious about your spiritual way of life and way of being may be something that's calling you into, to look at in your life. A need to have compassion, perhaps selflessness, and forgiveness is important when we look at the archetype of Pisces. So those themes we're going to be highlighted from 20th of February onwards, and then especially with Saturn moving into Pisces in March. I did promise we'll look at the Sabian symbols, and I've glossed over that, so I'm going to come back to that, but I'll finish on the last few dates in February. On the 20th, which is on this day as well, we have a new moon in Pisces at the 1st degree, so we might take a look at that. Trust with caution is what I've written for this one. So the new moon is at 1 degree of Pisces. So 20th of February, happy birthday, new moon for you. So you could expect a lot of new beginnings for the year ahead, and new births, things coming into light with that new moon energy. So a lot of new energy or new cycles beginning, or new things, experiences to be had for you. And likewise, I'm born on the 25th of August, which is exactly opposite this, in the 1st degree of Virgo. So for you guys, you're going to have this new moon activate that sun. So there might be some experience that develops outside of you that creates a new experience for you to go through, or some new energy to deal with. I'll come back to the Sabian symbols at the end, and then I'll read the oracle card as well. On the 21st, and 22nd, just after this new moon, we've also got a Mercury square Uranus and trine Mars. I'm interested with the Mercury-Mars connection because Mercury is the ruler of Mars, Mars being still in its shadow period in Gemini. And, there'll be sort of the mental clarity or breakthrough. This Mercury in Aquarius is very objective, the ability to sort of detach a little bit, see the bigger picture, see what's going on. Perhaps we're looking at something in our life and we're like getting fresh awareness, fresh perception. We're seeing it for the first time from a different point of view. And with Mars and Gemini being twins, it's like, maybe the way I'm looking at it is the only thing I need to change here. It's not the actual thing that I'm looking at. It's just I'm looking at it from the wrong point of view. So a real breakthrough in that. And it may be also like this sudden mental revelation or breakthrough or something unexpected happening, which triggers this type of event to happen for you with the square to Uranus. And then finally, as we move out of February, and we move into March, Venus, by the way, she's dipped into Aries now, and she's making her way from the end of February towards a conjunction with Jupiter. And Venus and Jupiter conjunctions are very lovely. She's spent her time being with this sort of idealistic, romantic sort of connection and selflessness and connecting with our nature and our sensitivities and our emotions through a trip through Pisces. And in Aries, it's all like now individuating that energy, expressing it through your assertion, maybe expressing your values now and shifting in your values. Venus conjunct Jupiter, planet of love in conjunction with planet of expansion and idealism. So optimism in the future. It's another sort of reinforcement to like let love lead as we move out of February and into March, where we do have some huge planetary shifts. The Venus conjunct Jupiter, right on the end of that, here it is 1st of March, Venus conjunct Jupiter is, Aries is the sign of the pioneer, the first, the initiator, the impulse, and the essence of the self, the ability to assert the self. And, what better way to start March than to sort of lead Aries with love in a big way. So let's take a look back at the Sabian symbol for the full moon in Leo, just quickly. Where are we? There it is. So Leo. This is jamesburgess.com. I use his Sabian symbol breakdown. I like it. It's easy to understand. It's sort of a twist on the Dane Radja version, but same symbols, just interpreted a little different. A non-vested church choir. So when you're looking up Sabian symbol, the full moon is at 16 degrees of Leo. So you're looking at the 17th Leo symbol. The reason being is because the first symbol in Leo is at 0 degrees. So when we get to 1 degree, we're actually looking at already the second symbol. So just to be bearing in mind, if you're checking Sabian symbols and like for me, you're born on the first 1 degree of Virgo, you want to check that up. Make sure you're looking at the second Sabian symbol for Virgo. It's pretty self-explanatory once you have a look here. So the universal symbol or Sabian symbol of the 16th degree of Leo is a non-vested church choir or a volunteer church choir singing religious hymns. Dedication to a collective ideal, using the voice to create sacred harmony, communion, devotion, and connectedness. It just reinforces that message that I've been delivering about community, coming together with like-minded people to help to express, to play, to have joy, to sing, to dance, to do what you need to do. So if you can find a way to do that on this full moon, what a beautiful way to release that energy. However imperfectly administered by its current ruling bodies, religion represents an attempt by the community to find a deeper connection, not only with their God, but also with each other. Right? So I guess the essence of religion is what they're talking about, not modern day dogmatic religions that's sort of being corrupted by our somewhat satanical religious leaders, especially in the Catholic Church. The practice of devotional singing has great impact upon the individual as well as the community. In itself, it can create the religious experience. which is not entirely different from the feeling of joy after the storm referred to previously, which is another Sabian symbol. So the joy after the storm, or I would like to say the joy after the stiffness. It's like the stiffness, this sort of, we haven't been relaxed. We haven't been able to just there. And I get it. We don't want to offend people, but we're living in this ultra time where, you know, it doesn't matter what someone's going to do or say, someone somewhere is going to voice their offense to it. And it's just like, really? So, you know, letting go of that, not focusing on that, coming from the heart, having joy, playing, absolutely. The Sabian symbol for the new moon, which is at 1 degree of Pisces. So it's not the first symbol, because the first symbol would be 0 degrees Pisces. It's the second Sabian symbol. So if you click on the second Sabian symbol, it'll always say it here. It'll say, see, 1 to 2 degrees. So this new moon is happening at 1 degree and 70 minutes of Pisces. We're looking at the second Sabian symbol for Pisces, which is a squirrel hiding from hunters. Reasonable caution. The dangers of life come from our fellow man as well as from nature. Balance trust with caution. So there is this aspect of trust or faith. And I love the last little bit to this. It's without a high degree of trust and intimacy, such as exists, for example, in tribal communities, there is always the real threat of aggression in the world. The appropriate response to this is neither fear nor blind faith. It is caution. The Sufis say, trust in God, but also tie your camel. I love that. Trust in God, but like tie the camel up, you know, because it's either going to wander off or, you know, someone's going to take it. So trust, but not blind faith, if let's look at it like that. And that's the new moon in Pisces. And sometimes, what are we putting our trust in? In Pisces, transcendence, connection to source, you know. So if there's chaos, if there's undoings, if there's things coming to light, if there's things going on, if there's things that are breaking, if there's new energy to deal with, and you're just being a little overwhelmed, it's like coming back to that trust in source and your connection to your source. How do you do that? Saturn moving into Pisces in March, like, well, that's the need to now really solidify and concretize your spiritual practices. The spiritual aspect of reality is going to move into more of a primary need within the collective. So a lot of the work that I'm doing, and healers and people that support others through transition and help them, you know, make better choices and do the self-awareness, self-development, self-actualization, there's going to be a higher demand for those needs. So last thing that I'll do before I end the video, and what I've done is I've tapped into the collective energy. I use Alana Fairchild's Earth Warrior Oracle cards. I use them in my sessions. If my client is with me, I'll ask them to pull a card at the beginning of the session, to which is then concealed for the entire session and revealed at the end to help reinforce the session. And often it's just surprising at how accurate and you know, specific it is to what's come up in their reading. But if a client's not able to be in person, then I will tap into their energy and I'll ask for a card on their behalf, and the same process. So what I've done is I've pulled a card for the collective. I don't know what the card says, but yeah, this is the card. So Chicana, and it is time to cross the threshold. Time to cross the threshold. I'll leave you with this breakdown from Alana Fairchild's book, and hopefully this message hits you. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the thumbs up, maybe even sharing it with your tribe, and thank you for watching. Time to cross the threshold. Chicana. A threshold appears, bringing an ending so complete that it is no longer possible to return to what has been. The light of the stars is your faithful guide into this new world. As you trust in your divine connection, deconstructed forms shall reshape themselves into relevant, helpful, and beautiful new ways of living, thriving, and expressing your true self. Trust in your strangest ideas, in that which is different, inspired, and unconventional. This crossing is healing and furthers the activation of divine potential. Change is afoot. You won't feel in control of the process. Trust what is new, different, or exciting to you. Don't assume that unless all things happen easily, then you must be on the wrong path. You're on the correct path, even if the birthing pains to fulfill it are challenging. You're guided to reject societal norms about how you're supposed to live or what sort of things you're supposed to value. Instead, trust your own values and believe in the truths that you feel within your own heart. In time, the world will be ready to recognize the benefit from your spiritual growth. The universe is helping you in all ways, including through correct timing. At the right moment, you will leave the past behind you and enter into the fullness of the present moment, opening up to the brightness of your future. Peace out, YouTubers. See you guys real soon.